So guys, in today's video, I'm quite excited because I really want to talk through setting our 2021 money goals. Now guys, I know that 2020 has just been such an unprecedented year, so a lot has happened, but I am still really grateful to just still be here, and I just feel so blessed to be able to talk to you guys and, you know, get to know some of you guys as well. So of course, you already know I still have my tea, but what I really want to do is just have a chat with you guys. It's going to be quite chilled, and let's just walk through how I like to set my goals, some tips that I can give you guys, and also just giving you guys some examples as well. So really depending on where you are with your finances, so if you are just looking to budget your money, or if you've got some debt, or you just want to save your money, or if you're even thinking of investing money, I'm hoping if I can give you some examples, then I can help you try and set your goals for next year. And then guys, I'm really hoping that we can really support each other in terms of what we're trying to do, because at the end of the day, we are a community. Well, I hope that we're a community, and we just want to just make everything better for ourselves. Please do encourage people to start thinking about their finances as well. I know it's the holidays and everyone's having fun, but I also know that people will still be struggling with their finances. So if you can try and help out your friends, your family members, if they don't want to listen to you, then I would encourage you to just maybe give them some resources, because they might start to listen to someone else, to be honest. I know that I have learned from that from past experiences. But first, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Millennial, and I talk about things to do with money, your career, and having a positive mindset for success. So if that does sound great to you, then of course you can subscribe to my channel and hit that bell notification below so you don't miss out on any new videos. So Millennial, I kind of want to go back to the basics. So how can we actually set our money goals? So I know a lot of the times you will hear, you know, how to set goals, set your goals for the new year and all of that stuff, but I kind of wanted to bring it back to the basics. And first of all, let's just think about exactly what goals mean. So I thought, let me just actually look at the definition of goals, and of course I went on to trusted Wikipedia, and what I'll do is just read the definition first and I will give you my thoughts. So Wikipedia basically says that a goal is an idea of the future or desired result that a person or a group of people envision, plan and commit to achieve. And then it goes on to talking about reaching goals and also having a set timeline. So when I'm thinking about goals, especially financial goals, I'm thinking about what exactly I want to achieve, and I tend to think pretty much in the long term but also the short term as well. So you will see that I kind of have some long-term goals and some short-term goals. So for example, when it comes to things like long-term, I'm more so thinking about things like retirement and financial independence. I have done a video talking about my plans for financial independence, so if you haven't seen that, then of course I will put that up here for you. But then when I'm thinking about my short-term goals, it's really the steps to get to my long-term goal, if that makes sense. So in my case, because I do want to reach financial independence within the next 10 years, that has really helped me to identify my sort of yearly goals in terms of getting to that step. So in terms of my long-term goal, when I'm thinking about how I'm going to achieve that, I might be thinking of investing in stocks, or investing in property, or even investing in myself to build a business and create some passive income streams. Again, that's just my example, but hopefully when it comes to setting your own money goals, you can start to think, actually, what do you want to achieve long term? Do you also want to become financially independent? Maybe you want to even retire early rather than the age 65. Is it still 65 that you can retire? I'm not even sure yet, but you might want to retire earlier. And it might not even be retiring within the next 10 years. It could be 20 or 30 years, for example. So after I figured out my long-term goals and I kind of have a plan as to how I'm going to get there, that's when I can really set some good short-term goals, particularly those yearly goals. But also I look at monthly, and I might look at weekly, or I might even look at my daily goals as well. And guys, the one thing I would also say is make sure you are writing those goals down. There is no point in just having it in your head, because then you just probably won't even remember it's there. So I would be writing it down, whether it's on your phone or you want to have it as your screensaver, or if you've got a journal or anything like that, just make sure you write it down, because I promise you it would just be so useful to just remind yourself. And then when it comes to the end of the year, you can see how well you've done. Now I think when it comes to setting your goals for the year, I like to think of SMART goals, which is something I learned in school, and I never really got to grips with it until I actually started learning about money, which I just think is ironic, but I do think it's really, really useful. So if you never actually learn what SMART means, it is an acronym. I mean, there are different versions of SMART that can be used, but let me find the one that I actually find is quite useful. Again, I'm going to use Google so that I can make sure that I have actually used the right words, and then I will explain it for you guys. So So in terms of what SMART stands for, the one that I like means that your goals need to be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound or timely. So it first needs to be specific. So you need to know exactly what you want to do. You need to also be able to measure it. So identify, like, how are you actually going to measure it? Is it actually going to be achievable? So are you actually able to accomplish it? Is it realistic? So can you actually realistically achieve it? And also thinking about it being time-bound. So when do you actually want to accomplish that goal? Okay, I think I get it now. So my goal is to be rich. Well, a goal of just being rich isn't really going to be considered smart, because number one, it doesn't really seem specific. I mean, what do you actually mean when you think about being rich? Because what one person thinks might be rich might be very different to what another person thinks is rich. One person might be thinking, actually, if you earn 6 figures, then you're rich. But then another person might be thinking, actually, if you're a millionaire, then you're rich. Again, being able to measure it. I mean, how would you know if you're actually rich if you haven't actually given yourself a number? And is it achievable? Well, it could depend on your starting point, but actually, if I don't really know what your end point is, then it's going to be a bit hard to figure out whether you can actually achieve it. And to be honest, that's the same with it being realistic as well. Again, you haven't really given a specific time. So is it within the next year or is it within 10 years? I don't know. Whereas let's say you've maybe got a retirement goal. So in my case, let's say that I'm 25 years old and I actually want to retire by the age of 65. So within the next 40 years. And within those 40 years, I want to have £1 million in my investment. So let's say I was able to get on average a 6% return on my money. So I am investing my money every single year for 40 years. If I'm able to invest about £500 a month and get a 6% return on my money, then yes, I could potentially reach £1 million within those 40 years. In that example though, I'm not really accounting for inflation, so just bear that in mind, but I just thought it would be a really good example because one, it's specific because you know exactly how much you want. You can measure it because you'll be able to see if you've got £1 million or not within the next 40 years. It could be considered achievable depending on where you're starting from. So if you do have £500 disposable income, or you're able to increase your income to reach £500 a month, then yes, it is achievable. That would also mean that it's likely to be realistic as well. And yes, it is also timely. So in this example, I would know exactly when I want to achieve that goal of £1 million, which in this example is about 40 years. And because you've got that long-term goal, so reaching £1 million, again, that means that you need to invest about £500 every month within the next 40 years. So if you're then thinking about yearly goals, well then that would mean that you would need to save about £6,000 each year. Now, when you're looking at things like financial independence and how much you need to save or invest, I do tend to use a calculator for that. I will probably do a video talking through that in a bit more detail because it's not that complicated, but it might not look that simple if you've never really figured out your financial freedom number. So I will definitely think about doing a video in the near future on that. But there is a calculator that you can use and you can put all the figures that you want and you can identify if you save this amount and you get this return on investment, then how much are you likely to get within the next few years. So I'll definitely do a future video on that in a bit more detail. So ignore that bit for now. But in terms of the example, that is exactly how I would set my goal. I really hope that makes sense. I hope I haven't really overcomplicated it too much, but if I have, please do let me know and I will try and do a future video to talk through it in a bit more detail. But yeah, let's just move on. So really, when it comes to setting your 2021 goals, everyone is probably going to have different goals and it really depends on where your starting point is. So what I've done is I've tried to pick 3 genuine scenarios that you might be in, and I've really taken that from my personal finance basics video where I was kind of giving you the basics and just talking through the steps that I did to basically get to where I am. And if you haven't watched that, then I would definitely encourage you to watch that after this video, so I will put that up here for you guys. So the 3 scenarios that I want to talk through is the first one, if you've got high interest debt, the second one, if you are looking to save money, and then the third one is if you are looking to start investing. So I basically just want to go through these scenarios and talk through maybe which goals you might want to start thinking about. So the first one I really want to go through is if you have any debt. So really and truly, I'm talking about consumer or high interest debt. So I'm talking about things like credit card debt, any car loans, any personal loans, any store cards, all of that stuff. And in that scenario, guys, let me not lie, we want to pay it off as soon as possible or as soon as we can. So I would probably first be identifying exactly how much high interest or consumer debt I have. So let's say, for example, in my case, I had about £16,000 worth of debt. So if I have £16,000 worth of debt, that's when you can start to think about your goals. So it could be that you want to pay off your high interest debt of £16,000. As well as that, you might also want to first save for a mini emergency fund. Let's say you want to save about 1 month's worth of expenses. So let's say about £2,000. So in total, the £16,000 plus the £2,000 comes to about £18,000. And then let's say that you want to achieve that within the next 2 years. Now, again, with that goal, I would be trying to figure out whether it is a SMART goal. So is it specific? Yes, because I know exactly how much I want to have paid off. Is it measurable? Yes, because if I've basically paid it off, then I know that I've paid it off and I'm consumer debt free, which is great. Is it achievable? In my scenario, it probably is, but it might not be for you. You might have to push it to paying it off within 3 years or maybe 4 years. Or if you've got a lot of income coming in, you might even be able to pay it off in 1 year. So it will really depend on your personal circumstances. Again, that will also link to it being realistic as well. So realistically, could you achieve it in 2 years, or is it more likely to be 3 years or 4 years? But if I wanted to pay it off in 1 year, £18,000 might be a bit too much. So that might not be realistic for me. And again, that also links to being time bound as well. So you've given a specific time frame of 2 years in this example. So if I wanted to achieve that goal within the next 2 years, I would then break it down yearly. So how much do I want to achieve within the first year, and then also monthly as well. So in this scenario, I might say that actually that means that I need to have £9,000 per year, because 2 years basically adds up to £18,000. So within that first year, I would have got my £2,000 mini emergency fund, plus I would also be paying off £7,000 worth of my debt. And then the next year, I'd be putting a further £9,000 towards that debt. So by the end of those 2 years, I would have had my mini emergency fund and also my debt paid off. So if I know that my goal is that £9,000 within that year, if I'm thinking about my monthly goal, that would mean that I'd be putting away about £750 each month. And then once you've got that goal, then you can start to figure out how exactly are you going to achieve it. So are you going to create a budget? I hope so. Again, I have got a few budgeting videos, so I will put that up here for you guys. And within that, you might be thinking about decreasing your expenses, or you could even consider actually increasing your income. So whether that's within your job or even starting a side hustle. And so hopefully you're able to get that £750 and then first put it towards your mini emergency fund. Once that's saved up, you can then start attacking that debt. So the next scenario I want to talk about is if you're trying to save money for something. Now, if you are in high interest debt, I would really encourage you to try and pay that debt off, guys. Please, it's expensive and it's just not worth it. But if you've already got past that point and you're looking to save money, then you could potentially think about some of these money goals. So let's say you're either trying to save for your emergency fund, you might also be saving for a house deposit, or you might even be saving for a car. So for example, let's say you're looking at saving up a deposit for a house and you know that it's going to be about £50,000. I would probably first be thinking about my starting point to figure out what's going to be realistic, because I'm probably not going to be able to save £50,000 in a year. I mean, if you can, then kudos to you and please let me know what you're doing. But if you can't, then you need to be a bit more realistic with your timeline. So you might think that actually I want to save £50,000 within the next 5 years, because then that means that you only need to save about £10,000 each year. £10,000 is still a lot of money, but it's a bit easier than £50,000 in a year, if that makes sense. And then it's very similar to my previous example. So if you know that you need to save £10,000 each year, then that would equate to about £834 each month. And again, the steps to achieve that, of course, I would be budgeting. You might again be thinking about decreasing your expenses, or you might be thinking about increasing your income. And then the next scenario I want to talk about is investing. Now, personally for me, I wanted to get my emergency fund first. You guys will probably know that. But if you maybe have got your emergency fund and you want to start investing, or you want to start building your investment pot at the same time as building your emergency fund, then you can also do that as well. Okay, so what about a goal like I want to start investing by next year? That's not specific because you haven't actually said, you know, how much you want to invest. So you could say that by the end of December 2021, I want to have invested £5,000 into my stocks and shares ISA. Now that is a SMART goal. So again, if your goal is £5,000 within that year, you could divide it by months. So £5,000 divided by 12 will be about £417 each month that you'll put towards your stocks and shares ISA, and then that means that as soon as you get paid, you know that you're putting about £400 towards your stocks and shares ISA automatically, no questions asked. Also, if you're quite new to investing and you really want to start investing in the stock market but you have no idea how, I have actually done a video on how I invest in the stock market as a beginner and really giving you the steps that I did to research and figure out how I can start investing. So of course I will put that up here for you guys and in the description below. And for me, achieving that will be through budgeting, decreasing my expenses, and also increasing my income if I can. But I really hope that gave you guys a good idea on what kind of goals you could be setting, and I feel like it's still quite fun. I feel like it doesn't have to be boring. So definitely let me know what your goals are in the comment section below, because I'd be really interested to see it. And I also think I might do a video on my own goals as well, just so you guys know and you can follow me on the journey. But yeah guys, I would love it for us to start sharing our goals, just so that we can really motivate each other. I know some of you guys have told me that you're saving for a house or you're trying to pay off debt, so hopefully we can keep going, and I pray that 2021 is going to be a great year for us and we're just all going to be on this money journey and it's just all going to be amazing. So I'm very excited for that. But if you did like this video, then please do give me a thumbs up, as it really does help to support the channel. Also let me know if you're planning on setting your money goals for 2021 as well. I do post every Tuesday and Friday, so if you would like to know more, then please do subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys on Tuesday.